After their successful collaboration on the home planet, Thomas and Kira were tasked with leading the first joint mission between the Silter and DRNRE. The mission aimed to explore a newly discovered planet believed to be rich in valuable minerals. "We need to be well prepared," Kira said as they reviewed tactical maps on the bridge of the Astral Fury. "This is our chance to show that this partnership can truly work." Thomas nodded. "I'll make sure the crew is ready for any scenario. We can't let old habits jeopardize this." Kira smiled, her confidence in him palpable. "Let's make history." Upon arrival on the new planet, they discovered that the minerals were not the only treasures. The planet was inhabited by mysterious life forms, and their presence was not welcomed. During an exploration mission, they were ambushed by a group of the indigenous creatures. Thomas and Kira instinctively worked together, their strategies perfectly synchronized as they defended against the attack. "What now?" Thomas asked as they retreated to the safety of their ship. "We need to find a way to communicate with them," Kira replied. "If we can convince them that we mean no harm, we might be able to form an alliance." With the help of their technicians and some DRNRE linguists, they developed a method of communication. The idea was to approach the creatures using sound waves and visual signals instead of weapons. "We need to build trust," Kira said. "If we fail, we could lose everything." Thomas agreed, but his heart was heavy. "What if they don't want to listen?" "Then we do our best," Kira said with determination. "We have nothing to lose." With a small team and their new communication technology, Thomas and Kira ventured onto the planet. They introduced themselves to the beings, now known as the Raelin. The creatures were imposing and somewhat intimidating, their appearance shifting with their emotions. The tension was palpable, but Thomas and Kira remained calm. Kira addressed the Raelin using the sound waves they had prepared, and Thomas carefully observed their reactions. After what felt like an eternity, the Raelin seemed intrigued, and the communication began. After hours of intense dialogue, they finally reached a breakthrough. The Raelin accepted the intentions of the Silter and DRNRE and agreed to collaborate on the development of the minerals, as long as their land and culture were respected. "This is incredible," Thomas said, his eyes sparkling with excitement. "We did it." Kira smiled, her eyes full of joy. "Yes, but this is just the beginning. We now have an alliance that could change history." Back on the Astral Fury, Thomas and Kira were full of plans for the future. They knew that their collaboration with the Raelin would not only strengthen their own peoples, but also serve as an example for other races in the universe. "We need to bring this message home," Kira said as they documented their findings. "Our victory on the planet is not just for us, but for everyone." Thomas nodded, but his thoughts drifted to the challenges still ahead. What if other races aren't as cooperative? Kira took his hand and squeezed it. "Then we'll convince them. We've already proven that we can work together, and that makes us stronger." A few weeks later, during a routine check, the Astral Fury received an alarming message from the Silter headquarters. Reports indicated a new enemy threatening the region, an unknown faction aiming to undermine their strategies against the DRNRE and Raelin. "We need to be prepared," Kira said, her tone serious. "This isn't a typical attack. They want to destroy everything we've built." Thomas felt his adrenaline surge. "Let's mobilize our forces and come up with a defense plan." In the days that followed, they worked tirelessly to mobilize their new allies. The Raelin, DRNRE, and Silter prepared to fight together against a new threat. Thomas and Kira were constantly engaged in communication between the different races. When the battle finally broke out, it proved to be one of the most intense and chaotic encounters they had ever faced. But their collaboration made all the difference. "Stay focused," Kira shouted, gripping Thomas's hand, their bond stronger than ever. After a fierce battle with heavy losses, they managed to repel the enemy. The victory was sweet, but the toll was heavy. "This is a costly lesson," Thomas said as they surveyed the remnants of the battle. "We must continue to work together to combat these threats." Kira nodded solemnly. "We must also protect our allies. Together, we are stronger." With the enemy defeated, Thomas and Kira knew there was still much work to be done. Their partnership had transformed the future for the Silter, DRNRE, and Raelin, and the possibilities were endless. "What now?" Thomas asked as they looked up at the stars together. "Now we explore the path of progress and peace," Kira replied, her hand in his. And as the Astral Fury soared into space, they knew their adventure was far from over. Together, they would explore the stars, build a new future, and strengthen their alliance. With the aftermath of the battle still fresh, the leaders of the Silter, Nari, and Raelin convened to discuss their next steps. Thomas and Kira were invited to present their findings and experiences. "This is our moment to solidify our alliance," Kira stated during meeting. "We need to create a formal agreement to ensure our cooperation moving forward." Thomas nodded, looking at the assembled leaders. "We should establish a council where representatives from each race can collaborate on future missions and strategies." The leaders murmured in agreement, recognizing the importance of their newly formed unity. Weeks later, the first Council of Alliances was held on the home planet of the Raelin. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation as leaders and representatives from all three races gathered. Kira took center stage. "We are here not just to discuss our past victories, but to pave the way for a future where we stand together against any threat." Thomas felt a sense of pride as he watched Kira speak with such authority and passion. This was the foundation of something monumental. Just as the discussions began to gain momentum, a delegation from a previously unknown race arrived. They called themselves the Kara and claimed to have knowledge about a looming danger that could threaten all of their worlds. "We come in peace," their leader, a tall, shimmering figure named Zyra, said. "But we also bring a warning. An ancient enemy is awakening, one that seeks to destroy not just us, but all who stand in its way." Zyra described the Karak, a race believed to be long extinct, but recent disturbances in space had awakened them. Their destructive power was legendary, and they were hungry for revenge against all who had wronged them. "This enemy won't hesitate to annihilate entire planets," Zyra warned, her voice resonating with urgency. "We must prepare for what's to come." The room fell silent, the gravity of the situation settling in. Realizing the seriousness of the threat, the council worked tirelessly to develop strategies. Thomas, Kira, and Zyra collaborated closely, blending their knowledge and skills to prepare for the impending conflict. "We need to share intelligence and resources," Kira suggested. "Our combined strength will be our greatest asset," Thomas added, "and we should train together. We need to ensure our forces can operate seamlessly in battle." In the following weeks, joint training exercises were conducted. Crews from the Silter, Nari, Raelin, and Kara learned to work together, practicing maneuvers and strategies that leveraged each race's strengths. During one particularly intense training session, Thomas found himself piloting alongside Zyra. "You have a unique way of navigating," Zyra remarked, her movements fluid and precise. "It's all about instinct and adaptability," Thomas replied with a grin. Just like this alliance, as the training progressed, the atmosphere grew tense. Everyone knew that the calm wouldn't last long. They had received reports that the Karak were moving toward their territory. "Prepare the ships," Kira ordered during a strategy meeting. "We need to be ready for anything." Thomas felt the weight of responsibility. "We can't let fear dictate our actions. We'll face them together." The day arrived when the Karak fleet was spotted on the edges of their territory. An alert was raised, and all ships were called to battle stations. "This is it," Kira said, her eyes steely with determination. "Stay sharp and trust each other." As they engaged the enemy, the Karak ships proved formidable, using tactics that forced Thomas and the Allied forces to adapt quickly. Amidst the chaos, Thomas and Kira found themselves in a fierce dogfight. They maneuvered through enemy fire, coordinating their attacks with precision. "Now!" Kira shouted as they executed a daring maneuver that caught the Karak off guard, allowing their allies to press the advantage. Victory was within reach, but the battle raged on, and the enemy showed no signs of backing down. In the heat of battle, Thomas spotted a massive Karak flagship at the center of the enemy formation. "If we can take that down, we might break their will," he proposed. Kira met his gaze, determination flashing in her violet eyes. "Let's do it." They executed a high-risk maneuver that brought them dangerously close to the flagship. The combined firepower of their ships focused on the target, but the enemy was relentless. As they approached the flagship, alarms blared throughout the astral fury. Thomas felt the strain on his body and mind as he pushed the ship to its limits. "Almost there," Kira shouted, her voice unwavering. With one last surge of energy, they unleashed a concentrated barrage that struck the flagship at its core. An explosion lit up the dark expanse of space. The Karak fleet faltered, their remaining ships retreating in disarray. Cheers erupted across the Allied ships as they celebrated their hard-won victory. "You did it!" Kira exclaimed, her eyes shining with pride. "We did it!" Thomas couldn't help but grin, feeling the rush of adrenaline. It's only the beginning. We've proven that unity is our greatest strength. In the weeks that followed, the Allied forces worked to rebuild and strengthen their ties. The victory over the Karak had forged a bond that would shape the future of their worlds. We need to continue fostering this alliance, Kira said during a meeting with the council. Together, we can face any challenge. Thomas felt a sense of hope as they discussed plans for future collaborations, knowing that their partnership had made a difference. One evening, as they gazed at the stars from the bridge of the Astral Fury, Thomas turned to Kira. We've come so far. I couldn't have asked for a better partner. Kira smiled, her eyes reflecting the starlight. Neither could I. We've proven that together we can achieve the impossible. With the universe stretching before them, they knew that their journey was just beginning. The future held endless possibilities, and they were ready to face it together. The Council of Alliances convened once more, this time to discuss the aftermath of the battle and the future of their collaboration. Tension hung in the air as representatives shared their perspectives on the need for ongoing unity. We've seen the power of our combined forces, Kira stated, addressing the assembly. But we must formalize our alliance to ensure we're prepared for any future threats. Thomas nodded in agreement. A unified command structure would enhance our effectiveness. We can't afford to act as separate factions when the stakes are this high. The leaders debated the logistics of a unified command. After hours of discussions, they reached a consensus. A new coalition would be formed, with representatives from each race serving on a council to oversee joint operations. Zyra, representing the Kara, stood. We must also create a shared intelligence network. Information will be our greatest weapon against any future adversaries. The proposal was met with enthusiastic support, marking a significant step toward a stronger alliance. With a coalition established, Thomas and Kira initiated a program to train the next generation of soldiers from all races. They believed that by fostering cooperation early, they could build a foundation for lasting peace. We'll create a training facility that embodies our partnership, Kira announced. It'll be a place where future leaders can learn from one another. Thomas felt inspired. And we'll ensure they understand the importance of trust and collaboration. As the training program developed, soldiers from the Silter, Nari, Raelin, and Kara came together. Initial hesitance soon transformed into camaraderie as they learned to work side by side. During a joint exercise, Thomas watched as a Silter soldier and a Nari recruit helped each other through a challenging obstacle course. This is exactly what we hoped for, he said to Kira, who stood beside him. Yes, she replied, a proud smile on her face. These young warriors will redefine our future. Despite the progress, shadows loomed over the alliance. Whispers of remnants of the Karak began to surface, suggesting that not all their enemies had been defeated. A meeting was called, and Zyra spoke gravely. We need to investigate these reports. If there are factions still loyal to the Karak, we cannot let them regroup. Kira's expression hardened. We must act swiftly to prevent any resurgence of their forces. Thomas led a reconnaissance team to explore the regions where sightings of Karak remnants had been reported. As they ventured into the unknown, he felt the weight of responsibility resting on his shoulders. Stay alert, he instructed his crew. We don't know what we might encounter. The tension in the air was palpable as they navigated through uncharted territory. After days of searching, they stumbled upon a derelict Karak outpost. Its ominous presence sent shivers down Thomas's spine. This place feels wrong, he murmured to Kira, who stood at his side. We should proceed with caution, she replied, her instincts on high alert. As they explored the ruins, they uncovered remnants of ancient technology and signs of recent activity. We're not alone, Thomas whispered, feeling a surge of adrenaline. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the outpost. A force of Karak warriors emerged from the shadows, their eyes filled with rage and vengeance. Fall back, Kira shouted, but it was too late. The team was surrounded. With a swift motion, Thomas activated the emergency beacon, calling for reinforcements. We need to hold them off until help arrives. A fierce battle ensued as Thomas and his team fought against the Karak. The odds were stacked against them, but they refused to back down. Each moment felt like a test of their resolve. Kira, watch your six, Thomas yelled, firing his weapon as a Karak warrior lunged at her. She turned just in time, dispatching the enemy with a precise shot. Thanks. We need to push towards the exit, Kira replied, her voice steady amid the chaos. Just when it seemed they would be overwhelmed, a squadron of Allied ships burst onto the scene, their weapons firing in support of Thomas's team. "Hold your ground," the lead pilot shouted over the comms. "We're here to back you up." With renewed strength, Thomas and Kira rallied their forces, turning the tide of battle against the Karak. As the Karak retreated, Thomas and Kira led their team toward the extraction point. The adrenaline was still pumping as they boarded the rescue ships, their hearts racing with the thrill of survival. "That was too close," Thomas said, catching his breath. Kira nodded, her expression serious. "We need to report this. The Karak are not finished yet." Upon returning to the council, Thomas and Kira recounted their harrowing experience. The leaders listened intently, the gravity of the situation sinking in. "We must prepare for the possibility of an all-out war," Zyra declared. "The Karak have regrouped and will strike again." Kira stood, determination in her eyes. "Then we must unite our forces and be ready. We can't let fear dictate our actions." In the following weeks, the council implemented measures to fortify their defenses. Training exercises intensified, and resources were pooled to ensure they were ready for the inevitable confrontation. "Together, we will stand strong," Kira addressed the troops during a rally. "We will not falter in the face of danger." Thomas felt a swell of pride as the crowd erupted in cheers. They were ready to face whatever the Karak had planned. As the Alliance prepared for battle, a sense of calm enveloped the ships. It was a deceptive peace, one that belied the chaos that loomed on the horizon. "Are you ready for what's to come?" Kira asked Thomas one evening, as they shared a quiet moment. "As ready as I'll ever be," he replied, taking her hand. "With you by my side, I know we can face anything." The day of reckoning approached, and the Allied forces gathered for one last strategy meeting. Kira outlined their plan, emphasizing the importance of cooperation and trust. "Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves," she reminded them. "We're fighting for all our worlds." The unity in the room was palpable as they prepared for the final battle against the Karak. As the Allied fleet engaged the Karak, the space around them erupted into chaos. Ships darted through the debris, firing on the enemy with determination and precision. Thomas piloted the Astral Fury alongside Kira, their movements synchronized as they faced the onslaught together. "This is it," Kira shouted, her voice resolute. "Let's show them the strength of our alliance." The battlefield transformed into a chaotic symphony of explosions and energy blasts. The Astral Fury soared through the fray, expertly dodging enemy fire as Thomas and Kira executed their strategy. "Target the flagship," Kira commanded, her eyes focused. "If we take it down, the rest will fall." Thomas nodded, determination surging through him. "On it. Let's give them everything we've got." As they approached the Karak flagship, Thomas noticed a change in their tactics. The enemy ships formed a protective perimeter, making their advance difficult. "They're anticipating our moves," Thomas exclaimed, frustration creeping in. "We need to outthink them," Kira replied. "What would your human strategist do?" "Deception. We can create a diversion," Thomas suggested, formulating a quick plan. Using the Astral Fury's cloaking technology, Thomas and Kira launched a series of drones to distract the Karak forces. As the enemy focused on the false targets, they seized the opportunity to slip through the defenses. "Now's our chance," Kira urged, adrenaline coursing through her. Thomas engaged the ship's weapons, unleashing a barrage at the flagship's weakened shields. "We're almost there." With a final push, the Astral Fury broke through the enemy perimeter, coming face to face with the Karak flagship. The massive ship loomed ahead, its weapons charged and ready. "All weapons fire," Kira shouted, and Thomas obeyed, pouring all their firepower into the flagship. Explosions rocked the enemy ship as it struggled to maintain its defenses. The tide of battle was shifting. Just as victory seemed within reach, a squadron of Karak fighters emerged from the shadows, launching a surprise attack on the Astral Fury. "Incoming," Kira shouted, her voice sharp with urgency. "Evasive maneuvers." Thomas twisted the controls, maneuvering the ship with all his skill. "We can't let them break our momentum." The Karak fighters swarmed, relentless in their assault. Thomas and Kira fought together, anticipating each other's moves, but the sheer number of enemies made it difficult. "Kira, I need you on targeting," Thomas called out, focusing on dodging incoming fire. "Got it," she replied, her fingers dancing over the controls, locking onto targets with precision. As they fought off the Karak fighters, Thomas realized they needed to end the fight quickly. We have to take out the flagship's main cannon. It's their only hope. Kira's eyes lit up with determination. Then let's make it happen. With a risky plan in place, they plotted their course toward the flagship's vulnerable side. As they approached the flagship, Thomas held his breath. Here we go. On my mark, Kira said, steadying herself. 3, 2, 1, now. They unleashed a focused burst of fire aimed at the flagship's main cannon. The impact was devastating, and the massive weapon exploded in a brilliant flash. With the flagship crippled, the morale of the Karak fleet began to waver. Thomas and Kira pressed their advantage, striking down enemy fighters left and right. We can do this, Kira shouted, her voice filled with exhilaration. The Allied forces rallied around them, inspired by their audacity and strength. As the Karak began to retreat, a single massive dreadnought emerged from the shadows, a last-ditch effort to turn the tide. Stay sharp, Thomas warned. This one looks different. Kira clenched her fists. We need to disable its weapons before it can fire. The dreadnought opened fire, its beams slicing through the void. Thomas expertly dodged the blasts while Kira targeted its weapon systems. Firing, Kira shouted, and their shots hit true, but the dreadnought remained operational. We need a direct hit to its power core, Thomas yelled, urgency rising. With a daring maneuver, Thomas piloted the Astral Fury directly under the dreadnought, aiming for a critical strike at its underbelly. Hold on, he warned as he dove, the ship shaking violently. Now, Kira, he commanded, and she unleashed their remaining firepower at the exposed core. A brilliant explosion erupted from the dreadnought as their shots found their mark. The ship shook as shockwaves rippled through space, and Thomas pulled the Astral Fury away just in time. We did it, Kira cheered, her voice a mix of disbelief and joy. As the battle came to an end, the remaining Karak forces retreated. The Allied fleet emerged victorious, but at a great cost. Many ships were damaged, and the toll of war weighed heavily on their hearts. We need to regroup and tend to our wounded, Kira said, her expression somber. Thomas nodded, knowing that their fight wasn't just against enemies, but also to heal the scars of war. Back on the Astral Fury, Thomas and Kira took a moment to reflect on the battle. The bridge was quiet, filled only with the hum of the ship's systems. We did what we set out to do, Thomas said, glancing at Kira. But at what cost? Kira met his gaze, her eyes filled with understanding. We fight to protect what we love. That makes it worth it. In the weeks that followed, the Alliance focused on rebuilding and healing. The joint training facility flourished, and soldiers from all races learned to work together, strengthening their bond. This is just the beginning, Kira told Thomas during a ceremony celebrating their unity. Yes, he agreed. Together, we'll face whatever challenges come our way. With the Alliance stronger than ever, the Council convened to discuss their next steps. Thomas and Kira proposed a mission to explore new worlds, seeking out potential allies and resources. We can't just defend, Thomas urged. We must expand and grow. The Council agreed, marking the dawn of a new era of exploration and cooperation. As the Astral Fury prepared for departure, Thomas felt a sense of excitement. The vastness of space lay before them, filled with untold possibilities. Ready for our next adventure? Kira asked, a sparkle in her violet eyes. Always, Thomas replied, smiling. Let's see what the universe has in store for us. With engines humming, the Astral Fury launched into the depths of space. As they ventured beyond known territories, Thomas and Kira knew that together, they could face anything. Here's to new beginnings, Kira said, raising a glass in the ship's mess. To our partnership, Thomas replied, clinking his glass against hers. As they charted new paths and encountered new civilizations, Thomas and Kira forged connections that transcended their differences. Their journey was just beginning, but the foundation they had built would guide them. With courage, trust, and a deepening bond, they faced the universe hand in hand, ready to embrace the adventures that awaited them. As the Astral Fury traveled deeper into uncharted space, the crew prepared for their first encounter with a new civilization. The sensors detected a planet rich in resources, and the excitement was palpable. Let's make first contact, Kira said, her voice steady with purpose. We need allies. Thomas nodded, his heart racing. What's our approach? The planet, named Zithra, was lush and vibrant. As they entered the atmosphere, Thomas expertly piloted the ship, navigating through thick clouds and colorful storms. Steady, Thomas, Kira instructed, eyes on the scanner. We'll need to land safely. With a smooth touchdown, the crew prepared for their first meeting with the Zitherans, known for their advanced technology and rich culture. As they disembarked, Thomas and Kira were greeted by a group of Zitharan leaders, tall and luminescent beings with an aura of wisdom. "Welcome, travelers," one leader spoke, their voice melodic. "We have awaited your arrival." Kira stepped forward, confidence radiating from her. "We come in peace and seek to build an alliance." The Zitherans invited them to their city, a stunning blend of nature and technology. As they toured the breathtaking structures, Thomas marveled at their harmonious lifestyle. "This is incredible," he whispered to Kira, who smiled back, appreciating the moment. "Their approach to life could inspire us," she replied thoughtfully. Over shared meals and discussions, the Zitherans grew more comfortable with Thomas and Kira. They learned about their unique energy sources and advanced healing technologies. "We have much to offer each other," Kira said, noting the synergy in their conversations. The Zitherans nodded, recognizing the potential for mutual benefit. After several days of negotiation, an agreement was reached. The Zitherans would join the alliance, providing technological support and resources in exchange for protection against common threats. "Together, we are stronger," Kira declared during the ceremony, raising a glass to seal the alliance. "To our united futures," Thomas echoed, pride swelling in his chest. With their newfound allies, the alliance prepared for the next phase of their mission. Reports of Karak remnants threatening trade routes reached them. "We can't let them disrupt our efforts," Thomas said, determination in his voice. Kira nodded, her expression fierce. "We'll send a message they won't forget." In the command center of the Astral Fury, Thomas, Kira, and the Zitharan leaders strategized their approach. They devised a plan that combined Silter precision with Zitharan technology. "We will use a combination of stealth and firepower," Kira explained. "We'll catch them off guard." As the crew readied the Astral Fury, Thomas felt the weight of responsibility. They were not just fighting for themselves anymore. They were fighting for an entire alliance. "Stay focused," Kira reminded him. "We'll win this together." "Always," Thomas replied, his heart steadying with her words. The alliance fleet assembled, ships of various designs working together in perfect synchronization. Thomas stood at the helm, Kira by his side. "Prepare for jump," Kira commented. "Let's show them what we're made of." With a deep breath, Thomas activated the engines, and they launched into the fray. The battlefield erupted with light and sound as the Allied fleet engaged the Karak remnants. Thomas deftly maneuvered the Astral Fury, weaving through enemy fire. "Kira, target their command ship," he shouted, adrenaline surging. "On it," she replied, locking onto their main target. The battle raged fiercely, but the combined efforts of the alliance began to turn the tide. Zitharan technology outmatched the Karak, and Silter tactics brought their discipline to bear. "Keep pushing," Kira urged, her voice unwavering. "We can't let up now." Thomas agreed, rallying the crew. Just when it seemed victory was at hand, a Karak dreadnought emerged from the shadows, flanking the Allied forces. "Everyone, brace for impact," Kira shouted, urgency flooding her voice. The dreadnought unleashed a barrage, but the Allies quickly regrouped, using their numbers to counter the threat. With renewed determination, Thomas and Kira led the charge toward the dreadnought, coordinating their firepower. "Focus all energy on that shield generator," Kira ordered. Thomas nodded, locking on and unleashing a powerful blast. The dreadnought's shields faltered, and they pressed their advantage. The dreadnought shuddered under their combined assault, its defenses crumbling. Thomas felt a surge of hope. "We're almost there," he shouted, pouring everything they had into the attack. With one final push, the dreadnought exploded, scattering debris across the battlefield. With the destruction of the dreadnought, the Karak forces began to retreat, their morale shattered. Cheers erupted from the Allied fleet. "We did it!" Kira exclaimed, her eyes shining with triumph. Thomas laughed, relief flooding through him. "We really did." As the Allied fleet regrouped, they celebrated their hard-won victory. Kira and Thomas exchanged proud glances, knowing that their partnership had been crucial to their success. "To our alliance," Kira raised her glass, surrounded by friends and allies. "To new beginnings," Thomas added, grinning at her. In the quiet moments following the celebration, Thomas and Kira took time to reflect on how far they had come. "It feels like a lifetime ago that we were enemies," Thomas mused, looking at Kira. "Now we're partners," she replied, warmth in her voice. "And I wouldn't want it any other way." As they prepared for the next steps in their alliance, Thomas and Kira discussed the importance of continuing their exploration and strengthening bonds with other civilizations. We need to ensure this peace holds, Kira stated firmly. And we will, Thomas promised. Together, we'll build a brighter future. With their alliance secured and the Karak threat diminished, Thomas and Kira set their sights on new horizons. Their journey through space was just beginning, filled with promise and potential. Hand in hand, they stepped onto the bridge of the Astral Fury, ready to embrace whatever adventures awaited them. As the Astral Fury soared through space, the crew received a transmission from the Zitharan leaders. They had discovered a mysterious anomaly on the edge of their star system. "Captain, we need to investigate this anomaly," Kira said, her eyes alight with curiosity. Thomas nodded, excitement building. "Let's plot a course. It could lead to important discoveries." The anomaly loomed ahead, a swirling mass of colors and energy. As they drew closer, Thomas felt a mix of awe and apprehension. Adjusting shields for potential fluctuations, Kira instructed, focused on her console. "Ready when you are," Thomas replied, gripping the controls tightly. With a deep breath, Kira signaled for the jump. The ship shuddered as they entered the anomaly, colors enveloping them in a dazzling display. "What's happening?" Thomas asked, his voice tense. "All systems stable." For now, Kira replied, her eyes scanning the readings. As they emerged from the other side, the crew was stunned to find themselves in an uncharted region filled with celestial wonders, floating islands, glowing flora, and alien creatures. "Where are we?" Thomas whispered, mesmerized by the sights. "I have no idea," Kira admitted, equally captivated. "But we need to explore." They landed on a nearby island, stepping out to breathe in the unique atmosphere. The air was filled with a sweet fragrance, and strange sounds echoed around them. "This place feels alive," Thomas said, his senses heightened. "Kira, we need to document everything." As they ventured further, they encountered creatures that defied description, translucent beings that floated gracefully, their colors shifting with every movement. "Fascinating," Kira breathed, taking notes. "This could change our understanding of biology." "Let's be careful," Thomas warned, watching a creature curiously approach them. To their surprise, the beings began to communicate, not with words, but through vibrant flashes of color and energy. "It's a form of language," Kira realized. "We need to understand it." Thomas smiled, feeling a thrill of discovery. "Let's try to respond." Using their technology, they attempted to create a visual representation of their intentions. Slowly, the creatures began to mimic their colors, forming a connection. "We're making progress," Kira said, excitement in her voice. "This could be groundbreaking." After several attempts, the creatures shared visions with Thomas and Kira, flashes of their home, their struggles, and their desire for peace. "They're seeking help," Thomas interpreted, understanding dawning upon him. "They're facing a threat." Kira's expression turned serious. "We can't ignore their plea. If we can help them, we should." Thomas nodded, feeling the weight of their decision. "Let's find out more about this threat." The creatures led them to a dark region of the anomaly, where a massive entity loomed, an energy siphon, draining life from the surroundings. "That's the source of their distress," Kira concluded, determination in her voice. "We have to stop it," Thomas said firmly. Back on the Astral Fury, Thomas and Kira strategized their approach. The energy siphon was powerful, and they needed a solid plan. "We'll need to combine our technology with their energy," Kira suggested. "It might give us an advantage." The crew worked tirelessly to modify their weapons, integrating Zitharan technology with their own. Thomas felt a sense of camaraderie growing among the crew. "Together, we can do this," he said, rallying them. "We're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for new friends." As they approached the siphon, the atmosphere crackled with energy. The dark entity pulsed ominously, and the creatures hovered nearby, ready to assist. "Steady, everyone," Kira commanded, her voice steady. "On my mark." The Astral Fury surged forward, and the crew unleashed a barrage of energy at the siphon. The dark entity retaliated, sending waves of energy crashing toward them. "Brace for impact," Thomas shouted, skillfully maneuvering the ship. The Zitharan creatures joined in, channeling their energy into the attack. The combined force shook the very fabric of the anomaly, and the siphon began to falter. "Keep pushing," Kira urged, her eyes fierce with determination. Just when it seemed like victory was within reach, the siphon unleashed a powerful shockwave, throwing the astral fury off course. "Recover!" Thomas shouted, fighting against the controls. "We can't let it win." In a moment of inspiration, Thomas made a bold decision. "Kira, we need to overload their energy field. It's risky, but it might just work. Let's do it." Kira agreed, trusting his instincts. With the crew's help, Thomas executed the plan. They redirected all available energy toward the siphon, creating a massive surge. "We're overloading it," Kira yelled, her voice filled with urgency. In a brilliant explosion of light, the siphon shattered, releasing a wave of energy that restored balance to the anomaly. The creatures danced in joy, their colors brightening. "We did it!" Thomas exclaimed, relief flooding through him. As the creatures celebrated, Thomas and Kira stood side by side, feeling the impact of their actions. "We've not only saved them, but we've forged a bond," Kira said, her eyes shining. "Partners in every sense," Thomas replied, wrapping an arm around her. With the anomaly stabilized, the astral fury prepared to leave. The Zitharans promised to keep in touch, and the creatures offered their gratitude. "Where to next?" Kira asked, excitement bubbling within her. "Wherever the stars take us," Thomas replied, his heart full of hope. As they ventured back into known space, Thomas and Kira reflected on their journey. They had faced challenges, built alliances, and discovered new worlds. "Together, we can tackle anything," Kira said, her gaze fixed on the stars. "Absolutely," Thomas agreed, ready for whatever lay ahead. As they traveled through familiar star systems, Thomas received a transmission from Earth. It was a message from an old friend, Alex, who had important news about humanity's role in the ongoing interstellar conflicts. "Captain, we should respond," Kira suggested, concern etched on her face. "Let's set up a secure channel," Thomas replied, intrigued. The screen flickered to life, revealing Alex's face, tired but determined. "Thomas, we need your help. Tensions are rising back home. The Silter High Command is considering a more aggressive stance." "That's not good," Thomas replied, frowning. "What can we do?" Alex's voice was urgent. "We need you to advocate for peace and cooperation between species. Your success with the Zitharans has given you a platform. You can sway the High Command." Kira leaned closer, her expression resolute. "We can help bridge the gap between humans and the Silter." After the call, Thomas and Kira gathered the crew. "We're headed back to Earth to meet with the High Command and discuss this new threat," Thomas announced. Kira added, "We must emphasize the importance of unity in the face of adversity." The astral fury sped toward Earth, a mix of anticipation and anxiety filling Thomas's chest. It had been a long time since he'd returned to his home planet. "Ready for this?" Kira asked, her tone light but serious. "Ready as I'll ever be," Thomas replied, steeling himself for the challenges ahead. As they approached Earth, Thomas marveled at its beauty from space. Blue oceans and green continents sparkled under the sun. "Look at it," he said softly. "Home. Kiasmait. A place worth fighting for." The astral fury docked, and Thomas felt a mix of nerves as they made their way to the High Command building. Rows of officials awaited, their faces stern. "Remember, you represent not just yourself, but all of us," Kira reminded him. "I won't let you down," Thomas promised. In the chamber, voices rose in heated debate. "We must take a firm stance against the Silter," one official argued. "But we cannot alienate them," another countered. "We need their support." Thomas stepped forward, heart pounding. "I have something to say." The room quieted, all eyes on him. "We've seen what unity can accomplish. My experience with the Zitharans proved that collaboration can yield peace. We can't let fear dictate our actions." Kira stood beside him, lending her support. "This is about more than just us. It's about the future of all species." Murmurs spread through the assembly. Some officials nodded in agreement, while others remained skeptical. "We need to hear from you, Admiral," Thomas pressed, turning to Admiral Zark, who had just entered. Zark's gaze was piercing. "You speak of unity, but what proof do you have that it can work with the Silter?" Before Thomas could respond, a figure stepped forward, one of the elder Silter representatives who had attended the last meeting. "We stand with Captain Lee," the elder declared, their voice resonating in the hall. "Unity is our best chance for survival." Thomas felt hope swell in his chest as more voices joined in support. The tide was turning. The officials began to discuss strategies for collaboration rather than conflict. "Let's put together a task force to strengthen our alliances," one suggested. With newfound momentum, Thomas, Kira, and the High Command outlined a plan to facilitate communication and cooperation among species. "We'll initiate joint training exercises and cultural exchanges," Kira added, her confidence shining through. As the summit concluded, Thomas felt a weight lift. They had made significant strides toward peace. "Good work, partner," Kira said, pride evident in her voice. "Couldn't have done it without you," Thomas replied, smiling. With plans in motion, Thomas and Kira prepared to head back to the Astral Fury. They would oversee the implementation of their new strategies. "What's next on the agenda?" Kira asked. "Reinforcing our alliances and exploring new frontiers," Thomas replied, determination in his voice. As they left the High Command, Thomas received a message from an unexpected source. The Zithran leaders wanted to meet in person on Earth. "This could be a historic moment," Kira noted. "We should prepare." When the Zithran delegation arrived, Thomas and Kira greeted them. The air was thick with anticipation. "We come in peace and hope for a lasting alliance," the Zithran leader declared. "Together, we can forge a future free from conflict," Thomas responded, feeling the weight of the moment. Over the following days, both sides engaged in discussions, sharing knowledge and culture. Thomas felt the bonds between humans and the Zithran strengthening. "This is what we envisioned," Kira said, her eyes reflecting the vibrant energy of collaboration. To commemorate their newfound alliance, a celebration was held on Earth, inviting all species to partake. As music filled the air and laughter echoed, Thomas realized they had made significant progress. "Together, we can achieve anything," he said, raising a glass in a toast. With the alliance solidified, Thomas and Kira returned to the Astral Fury, ready for their next mission. "What do you think lies ahead?" Kira asked, her gaze fixed on the stars. "Adventure, challenges, and hopefully more alliances," Thomas replied, excitement building. As the Astral Fury launched into the depths of space, Thomas felt a sense of purpose. They were explorers, diplomats, and partners, ready to face whatever the universe had in store. "We're just getting started," he said, glancing at Kira with a smile. "Let's see what awaits us," Kira replied, her determination unwavering.